Hello, I'm Ian, and in this, my second basic woodworking video, I'm going to teach you how to saw really accurately to 0.1 of a millimetre or 4/1000th of an inch. In the first video we saw how to mark up really accurately, but I'll repeat that so that you've got an idea of where my line is and what we're doing with it. So here's my piece of wood. I've already marked up a tick on one end to show that that end is absolutely square. If I hold it up for you to see, you can see it's square that way, it's square that way. And we're going to measure 160. So I've got a really sharp pencil. It hurts when I tap it into the palm of my hand. And I square up my steel rule with the edge of the wood so it's dead parallel, and I feel for perfect flushness down here with my fingertip. It's as one, that surface. Referencing the wood with my fingers, I can put a dot spot on 160, and I've noticed that that's just a whisker to the right, so I'm going to draw a line just fractionally to the left of that, a really faint line, a hairline that you can see, and measure that again just to check that I've corrected that error with the dot. And that's now absolutely spot on 160. I take my marking knife and I place that marking knife exactly on the line. If I got that line slightly wrong, I could have corrected again the error by putting the point of the knife to the left or right line, but this is spot on, so I can bring the square up to it, holding the square 3 fingers, 1 finger thumb, draw myself a line, and then I pick up that little nick on the corner. I haven't made it quite deep enough, so I'll go a bit deeper. You want to make sure you have a definite nick to pick up on that side. I ping my knife into the slot, bring the square up to it, tilting the knife over slightly to make sure the blade goes right into that corner between the wood and the square. If I've done my job properly, that'll come back to exactly where we started. Which I've done, so I'm happy with that. We'll go over it now with a pencil line just to make sure we can see what we're up to. So there's our line. I'm now going to take my tenon saw, which is part of a family of back saws. I'm going to hold it 3 fingers, 1 finger thumb, like that. And I'm going to adopt the correct stance, which is with my left foot on the Workmate. My right foot is tensed and straight at the back. My elbow can pass my hip, so I position my body so that my wrist and my elbow and my shoulder are in line with the saw. I've got the workpiece just 6 or 7 millimeters on the side of that batten. And I'm going to put my finger flat on the far corner of my workpiece. And if I raise this joint, I can move my finger to the right and the left of the line. And if I put my saw against my fingertip and move my finger like I've just shown you, I can position that saw spot on where it should be. And where it should be is exactly on the waist side of the line, i.e. here. This is where the cut should be, leaving the line intact. The saw cut should just kiss that line. Now if we take a closer look, there's my finger running along the back of the work. Here's the saw sitting on the waist side of the line. I can move it fractionally left and right until it's sitting just in the right place. I tilt the saw so that it's about 10 degrees from horizontal, and I leave my finger in place. Notice there's no blood, and I pull the saw towards me. Now the reason I'm not cutting myself is because the saw is designed to cut on a push stroke, not a pull stroke. And also very quickly the teeth get buried in the wood, so my fingertip is running along plain metal, not near the teeth. Now if I take a look at that now, you can see that it's dead on the line where it should be, and it's also following the line down here, although maybe a whisker close, which is important. I've noticed that because I want to ensure that the saw cut travels slightly away from the line. So I'm going to keep that angle and move the saw so that I'm not putting any pressure at all on the saw. I'm just moving it backwards and forwards. When I've gone that far, I stop and have a look. I've followed the line here nicely, but this saw cut is looking a little bit close to that line, so I'm going to tilt the saw slightly in this direction to bring myself away from it. Have another look. Now I've succeeded in bringing that back, if you notice. And the only reason that I've done it is because I've had a look to see what's going on. And that's what you need to do. Every 5mm, every 1/4 of an inch, take a look and see what's going on. You'll notice that the wood is breaking up on the waste side, but not on the good side, which shows me that the knife cut I put in the wood is stopping that breakout, and that the saw is following the line. Now if you have a look now, you can see that I'm coming away from the line slightly. If you have a look on this side, it's pretty much on the line. So I've got to move the saw slightly in this direction to bring it back on the line, and I'm going to use the saw teeth a bit like a file, just to get the saw back exactly where it should be on the line. So I had lifted the saw up a little bit to rub away the material here to get it back on the line. Now I do this with my weekend woodworkers, and we have a competition where they try and beat me. I'm ashamed to say that every now and again, very much the exception rather than rule, I hasten to add, they beat me because they've only been doing it for 40 minutes, not 40 years like I have, and they shouldn't be able to beat me. We're doing all right today though, that's looking good. We're still on the line. The secret is to check all the time, see what's going on. No pressure on the saw, using all the teeth. Not little cuts like this, but long cuts. And when you get to this stage, where you've got very little material left, you'll find that the wood starts to flex. So you can't rely on the wood supporting the saw anymore. And for that reason, you press really hard with your finger to keep the saw pressed in that direction to stop the saw drifting off. So I'm keeping a lot of pressure on there to keep the saw tight against the piece I'm keeping so it doesn't drift off, and finally I'm through. Now if I turn that round, we've got a dead straight cut there. This is great, that's dead straight, but is it 160mm? Let's have a look. Make sure it's flush, make sure it's straight, and there we are, pretty much exactly where it should be, 160mm. And is it square, you ask yourself? It's square in that direction, and it's square in that direction. And that's how you do it. To saw to 0.1mm accuracy using a tenon saw and using a bench hook. You can buy these, I'll leave a link on the description below for that. But equally, you can look at sessions, I think 5 to 9 on my pallet to spice rack course, where I actually made this particular bench hook from pallet wood, if you're interested. I hope you thought that was useful, and if you did, if you don't mind giving the video a thumbs up, that would be great. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, feel free. There's a subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner. I think it's that side, I don't know, whichever side it is. Be very grateful if you subscribe, that'd be good. And we'll meet up for the third video where I'm going to show you the third pillar of accurate carpentry, and that is how to make your chisels and planing irons really razor sharp with a very simple process using an oil stone. See you next video.